All right, people, welcome to session 4, devotion number 4 on the subject of faith. We've been talking about the importance of faith on the basis of what 1 Corinthians 13 says, because faith is one of the big three. At the end of the day, these are the three things that really count in your life: faith, hope, and love. And love is the big one, but love operates best in the context of faith and hope. So we need to make a real effort to understand what faith actually is and what it looks like. And so far, we've spoken about the fact that it is faith that is our response to the grace of God. It's this faith that makes us Christians. As we receive God's gift, we receive it by faith. We don't always have to understand it, but we acknowledge it and we say, God, thank you. By faith, I receive the gift of salvation. And then we said, secondly, that faith is the only way to please God. Hebrews tells us, without faith it's impossible, which means it's impossible to please God. So don't try and impress God with religious behavior or doing good stuff, as much as those are, in many ways, are some really good stuff out there. But that, at the end of the day, doesn't really please God unless there's a strong faith element, and that faith element being the element that causes you to do those things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that just now. But yesterday we began to talk about the credentials of faith. First of all, we said that faith needs to have a strong object in which we have faith in. I don't know anybody stronger than God. Is anybody out there know anybody stronger than Him? I used to think my dad was the strongest guy in the world, but I found that he probably wasn't. But I find that God is, without a doubt, the strongest person and the greatest and the most powerful being that ever has been or ever will be. And I don't have a problem putting my faith in somebody who's so powerful, who will never fail, who has the greatest track record in the world. And so the object of our faith is going to determine the strength of our faith. Not about how much faith we have, but the object of faith is what is important. That's the first credential. The second credential is the objective of faith. We have a great object of faith being God, but why do we have to have that faith? What is the objective of faith? What is God's purpose for us being known as people of faith? Well, it's very simple. The faith that God gives us in Himself is the faith that He has given us to fulfill His purpose, and that's it. It's sometimes the good and the glory of God have got a little bit confused. We think that our faith is just for our good, that my faith is going to make me healthy and wealthy, and yeah, well, if it does, that's cool. But I'm not so sure that that's the real objective of God. God has given us faith and makes a big deal about faith because it has a purpose for His kingdom and for His glory. The side thing is it has a thing for our good, but at the end of the day, it has to be about His glory. Just have a look at, so many examples. I just love Elijah. And when Elijah stood on Mount Carmel that day with that great competition against the other gods with small g's, against Baal, and he had the prophets there, and they built their altars, and they put their cows on there, and they were ready to pray. And the prophets of Baal prayed out to Baal, Baal, come and take your offering by fire, and there was nothing. All day long they ranted and raved and cut themselves. And Elijah just sat under the shade of a tree. It was getting dark. He walked out there and he said, okay, people, you look exhausted. It's been a long day. I think you just need to let me wrap this thing up. Pours water on his cow that's lying on the altar, and he looks up to heaven. He said, Lord, this is all about you. This is not about me. Show these people today who the real God is. And when Elijah showed them who the real God was and still is, he got out of the way. You see, it's this beautiful thing of taking the hand of God and the hand of the people, joining them together, and then, for goodness sake, get out of the way. Do not stand between the people and yourself, because God is the one who needs to get all of the glory for the faith that He has given to you. So when we talk about the objective of faith, God has an objective for faith. It's not just some kind of thing that He dreamed up. There's a purpose for God to give you faith, and there's a purpose for God to tell you to live by faith. It's very simple, just to achieve the purpose of God. Faith is all about knowing the will of God, and the only way you're going to know the will of God is to get to know God. So spend time with Him. get to know His will, read His Word, and find out what it is that God really wants, what it is that impresses God, and what it is that you can use your faith on so that God can be glorified at the end of the day. You don't want to touch the glory of God. You don't want to have faith so that you can look good in the eyes of the people. That is a corruption of this beautiful ideal. And I hope and I pray today that as you contemplate the greatness of God, that you will understand that the faith that He gives is given simply for His glory and a little bit for your good. I hope you'll think about that today. Have a great day.